Right, Ruth, we are recording.
Amazing. I'm here.
Ruth Wood, you are a nutritionist. I've got it right, nutritionist. It's not a hard word for some reason. I can never say it. And I'm really excited to talk to you today. And I'm excited to talk to you as well because we've got quite a lot in common because we both, have worked for the BBC.
Yes.
Which I wouldn't expect to start a conversation with a nutritionist about the BBC, but you have.
I have. As a consultant, as my as a self-employed person, but I was in there for probably 3 to 4 years. Yeah, I had a clinic at the BBC. Yeah.
I always found when I was working for the BBC, and I still do work for the BBC occasionally, the hours were so long and food was never really a priority. You know, especially in TV, it's very to go and really prioritize, your food or your health.
Yeah, and that was kind of my main job there. Really, was it was a clinic for staff because people's hours were quite erratic or varied so much with shift work, and so I started I had a clinic at the old TV centre, and one down the road at Worldwide as well, and it was fantastic. And nutrition was just kind of taking off to be this new interest for people. It was getting a lot more media attention in magazines and a little bit on TV and radio, and there was a little bit more kind of attention to it, which was great. So I kind of qualified really at the right time, and then from there kind of started helping on projects for the BBC. I did a few advice for some projects for them as well.
Oh, what sort of projects are you allowed
to just like helping people if they needed to maybe lose weight for a role, or just kind of more that really, or food that they were putting on for a show that they needed to get some advice for, whether it was the right era of food or but the losing weight or gaining weight safely for a role, rather than just kind of letting someone do their own thing and not doing it in a very safe way. Yeah.
So I know you're not allowed to say celebrity names, but so were you advising celebrities then on and actors and actresses?
Yeah. I think for me, it's with nutrition, it's such a it plays such a massive role in our health, and I specialised in mental health and addictions, and so I was at the same time in parallel. I was working as the nutritionist for the Priory Group and other mental health and rehab clinics, and it's for me, it's just about realising how people are poorly, and it's important to focus on the whole body holistically, rather than just losing weight or I just need to lose weight. Well, how do you feel? How are you sleeping? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? That is more important, getting that part of your health right before we worry too much about whether we're the right weight.
How long were you working with people at the Priory then?
I was at the Priory on and off for about 9 years.
Wow.
So because I left for maternity, but I went back once my son was born. I went back after 2 or 3 months, and it was a fascinating job. It was more about, it was kind of a different focus for the patients, and because it's obviously hard work, whether you're in the rehabilitation side in the addictions clinic, or whether you're in the acute mental health or crossover. It's not as straightforward. So and making sure, giving people a new focus of helping themselves get better, and a nice focus for them, because I used to do seminar groups with the patients. It wasn't just one-on-one. We'd have these group sessions where we talk about the food and what it actually does to the body, not just, eat more fruit and veg. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows all that. We want to know more now, and people want to know more, and that's fantastic for us as nutritionists to because we have the knowledge and the training for it. So it's, I loved that part of it, telling them what an essential fat was actually doing in the brain, the role it played in the body, and where it goes once you've eaten it, and how that is helping. And also looking at the different addiction people have, you know, and what the relative foods for them, and how that addiction can affect the body, from the liver or the kidneys or the gut, and helping with that kind of rehabilitation through food and just knowledge, education. Yeah.
I found when I, you know, talking about mental health, when I was trying to get pregnant, and it took me a bloody long time, I felt so low for such a long time. And actually food, even though I knew I had to eat well, I found it quite difficult sometimes to get myself into the right state of mind to think, right, come on, be positive. Let's put together a really good meal plan. Let's eat foods that are going to, you know, lift my spirits or whatever, because I just felt so fed up. Yeah. So I found myself in this sort of dark place where I wasn't eating well, and I just was getting more and more depressed because I couldn't get pregnant. And then people are saying, but you should be eating this and you should be eating that. It's, I mean, I didn't know how to break the spell, if you like.
Yeah, the vicious circle. And that's why I was part of a team. So obviously there would be counselling involved, and the psychiatrist, and everyone works together and does their very critical part of the rehabilitation and the treatment for the patient. So for me, with food, when someone's so fed up, you've got to start with what they like. It might not be the most nutritious food, but what you want is someone just to eat and get some calories in, and at least have the energy to think about what would be a better diet. You know, if you're not bringing any food in at all, or it's very kind of sporadic eating, you haven't got the, you know, obviously food feeds the brain. So even if you are having toast and marmalade every morning, no, it's not ideal, but it's also not terrible, you know. And I think that was, for me, that was so important. To nutrition and nutritionists can have kind of a reputation for being faddy and over the top healthy, and I'm very much not like that, you know. I especially working in that field, because it's important that people aren't scared of food. You know, if you start putting these big restrictions and limitations on, these are the groups of food you've got to eat, it works obviously for a lot of people, but when people are poorly, they just want to eat something that they know is at least reasonably good, you know, and doing it. Sorry, just 1 second. Can you hold on 1 second? Sorry, sir.
Of course. I'll, in the meantime, I'll just have a little nosy at your house there and look at, got nice armchairs. Maybe I'll edit this bit out. Maybe I won't. Depends how long she's gone. In the meantime, we could talk about, no, I'll wait.
I told you, I'm so sorry.
Don't be silly. Do you know what? Whilst we were talking about breakfast then, can I ask you, what is, or is there an answer to this? What is the most perfect breakfast in terms of healthy and like winning?
For me, starting the day, just when there's a lot of conflicting views on breakfast, you know, because people are into intermittent fasting's become quite popular, and so some people aren't even having breakfast or anything to eat till midday, say. For me, in the field of work I've worked in, I've got to say I've seen a lot of problems with that. So for me, you're breaking a fast, aren't you? That's what breakfast is. So when you wake up, it's important to just give the body the energy that it needs to just get going. So carbs are our best energy food. we should have protein really with every meal and some fats. So again, it's whether someone has a good appetite at breakfast or not. So if you have a good appetite, I'm a really big fan of porridge, but kind of maybe even mixing grains. So not just oats. I'm doing, you know, we have things like quinoa and oats, or chia seeds and oats. So you've got some carbohydrate, but not so heavy. You know, you've got slightly less. Putting things like stirring some peanut butter or almond butter through the porridge, and it makes it really creamy. It's giving you some fat and it's giving you some protein.
What do those chia seeds do? Because I've got them in the cupboard. I have no idea what they do. I know they're just supposed to be good, and then I sprinkle them sort of anywhere, really.
Yeah, that's good.
I have no idea what they're for.
They're basic. Most seeds are high protein. So, and because they're tiny and they look kind of a little bit insignificant, people don't think they're as important as they are. So, so chia swell, once you put them into water, they become like a gel. I don't know if you've ever tried to make like a chia pudding or a chia breakfast. They're actually quite good. The problem with it is the texture for some people, because it goes quite sort of blancmangy. But that's why it's good to mix it with other oats. So they're seeds that are high in protein, lots of minerals and vitamins, and they're filling because they swell with water. So they're particularly a good filling breakfast. I use them a lot, especially for things like in a porridge or in a grainy sort of breakfast, rather than a sugary cereal. You know, like a muesli that's full of sugar. It's just not going to do you any favors. So soaked oats with like a cashew cream or some yogurt and some fruit. If you savory wise, things like omelets are fantastic. You know, a omelet with spinach and maybe a little bit of feta, you know, for some fat.
Yeah.
And so that's what my book that's coming out is actually on breakfast, because so many people struggle with breakfast. So I thought that's going to be the first thing I do, is do that kind of.
What's the book going to be called?
Not sure yet. That's the last bit we're coming up with, is the title. So, but it's crucial food. So, but yeah, we're going to come up with something that's makes it sound more attractive.
I think it's so, when you start your day with a really nice breakfast, I always feel like I've achieved so much already.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, I have a really naughty habit, and that is digestive biscuits.
Right.
I'm quite partial to, and I blame my mum because she's done it for years. Cup of tea and 2 digestives. How bad are we?
Well, it's not bad. You know, I mean, I think if you have them every day habitually, you know, there's going to be a better snack for you. But they're not. This is the whole thing. There's no real additives or colorings and all those awful. They are literally a grain and some sugar and some salt, you know, and obviously some fat. But they're not. This is the whole thing. They're not terrible. You know, if you're eating half a packet of digestives a day, you know, which obviously some people do, then that would be a bit of a problem. But it would be great for you. So, but 2 digestive biscuits a day, I think that's okay, isn't it?
2, okay, that's good, because it kind of sets me up. I have my digestives and a cup of tea.
Yeah. My
Weetabix, and I'm sorted.
I would maybe shift it to have more as a snack rather than as part of your breakfast. I think I would put something a little bit better in your breakfast, but there's nothing wrong with having 2 digestive biscuits a day in my book. No.
Good. I think one of the other things I used to struggle with, and I still struggle now, is the question that I think pretty much everyone asks their partner every single day, and that is, what should we have for dinner? You know, and especially when you are trying to conceive, you want to eat, you know, the best that you can to try and help improve your chances, you know, of conceiving. But again, it's something I never really got to grips with. I think we just ate a lot of hummus. I mean, I just panicked. I would panic and, you know, overthink.
Because it's got phytoestrogens in.
Yeah.
I think I think this is where it's important to understand your food a bit, particularly when you're trying to conceive. It's, you know, it's an important issue going on. So it'd be really good to understand what food groups give you what nutrients and how that then impacts on fertility. So, and on the body in general, just making it stronger and fitter and ready for whatever it needs to do. So I think, for me in the evening, I think it's more important that we tend to do less, don't we, at night? So we, you know, unless someone's training really late at night or something, but generally we tend to wind down in the evening. So whether we're hanging out with friends, going out with friends or whatever, but we don't need a lot of energy. So carbohydrates are the things that it's a good time to kind of sideline heavier carb food at that time. So I always say to people, get really creative with your veggies, and, you know, instead of having rice, make cauliflower rice or broccoli rice or something. Have a lovely, but it's about the dressings and making the salads really interesting, using loads of herbs, and then having a really good piece of protein, whether you're vegan or whether you're a meat eater, you know, just making sure you've got, and marinating foods, marinating fish or meat and the tofu or tempeh and making like
I've never marinated anything in my whole life.
So we need to talk.
I'm a BBC employee.
Marinating is one of the easiest things, and this is the sort of thing I think it's really, as a nutritionist, it's quite a good thing for us to educate people on, is that, you know, doing things like marinating, you're getting even more nutrients when you marinate something, you know. I think, yeah, because if you're using things like a good oil, or if you're marinating it in some more spices have great nutrition, you know, like turmeric and cayenne and coriander.
Turmeric. I keep hearing about turmeric for fertility as well.
Yeah, so turmeric's, the thing with a lot of them, they're slightly better. We talk about raw food quite often being the most nutritious food. It's not necessarily always the case, because some nutrients become more active when they're warm or heated. So, and turmeric's actually one of them. So, you know, if you've got milk, say you have a nut milk with golden milk, nut milk with turmeric in, which is quite popular at the moment, I always tell people to warm it, because the turmeric becomes more active. So there's different ways. It's all these little things that are really important for us to kind of understand when we're eating food. That raw food's fantastic, of course it is, but it's not necessarily always the best. And I think that's where the education bit is really important for me. I mean, I'm from a family of teachers, so that's kind of always been my thing anyway, is I just want people to understand more. You get much more reaction from people with nutrition if they really understand what it's doing in their bodies. When you often get told to do something from a dietary perspective, most people go off and read another million articles on the same thing, or, oh well, it said in this magazine or in this paper or on this TV show or on, you know, and there's so many different opinions, and I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong, or, you know, but once we understand what it's doing to our body, we can then make an informed decision about whether we want to eat that food and how much we want to eat it. And, you know,
when you just mentioned earlier about nut milk with turmeric or turmeric, I suddenly realized like what a boring child of the 70s I am, because nut milk with turmeric, I'm like semi-skimmed, and I thought I was, you know, far out.
Put some turmeric in your semi-skim then.
I really do feel like I've missed out. When I got married, my mum gave me a book that was like 100 things to do with a potato.
Amazing. Is she northern by any chance?
I really have missed out. I really, you know, my poor husband, even my salads, he always says my salads look like something from the 70s. You know?
Do you know what? It's not about, and this is the other thing actually that's really important, Sarah, because it's not about having all the fancy ingredients and having, because some of them are also expensive, and a lot of people, which is obviously the back to front thing that goes on with nutrition. So, you know, all the rubbish food's cheap and affordable, but the great food that's healthy for us is obviously expensive, and it's just haywire. So so it's not about necessarily having pomegranate and alfalfa and, you know, artichoke and all that sort of thing with everything, because there are other foods that are equally as nutritious. And, you know, cucumbers actually got more nutrition in it than people think. You know, tomatoes, broccoli, cabbage is fantastic. You know, there's so many straight oranges, apples, they're great. We just need to be a little bit more creative with them and enjoy what we're doing with the food, instead of just thinking, oh, it's tomato, cucumber and lettuce salad every night. That's actually can be okay if you've got the other little extras you can put on, or a nice dressing, you know.
Can I ask, is salad cream okay?
Salad cream,
I put it on everything.
It's usually got a lot of sugar in, because there's so many different kinds. I always say usually now, because there's so many different kinds. Yeah. So there's usually quite a lot of salt and sugar in these things, you know. To be honest, the packaged food is getting slightly better, you know, because people are being much more conscious with their production, that people don't want all the salt and the additives and the colorings, and obviously because of research showing that it's not good for us, you know. So some bottled and tinned and, you know, foods are actually, there's some good stuff out there, you know. It's but again, we've just got to read the labels again. But it's not all bad. It's not all bad, and sometimes it's what people want or what they can afford, you know.
Because when I do like a prawn, when I have like prawns, I'll get like a big squirt of salad cream, a big squirt of ketchup, a bit of lemon juice, mix it up, and that to me is like, oh yeah, I have just created something really special.
I really should have my own TV show. It's the thing, the big thing that everyone, and certainly I try and push, is chickpeas have always had this really bad kind of, you know, like something from the young ones or something, you know. So, but the chickpeas are so nutritious, and you can get so many things from them. So we obviously know what they look like, and we usually put them in a salad or make hummus from them. But the chickpea flour is great. And also the aquafaba, which is the liquid that the chickpeas sit in, makes great mayonnaise, and you can make meringues with it, you know, all sorts of stuff. And so this is part of what I'm going to try and do in the book, is teach people how to, because we're trying to get people to increase plant food. But just to increase plant food doesn't mean that you have to become fully vegan. You know, it's just about having more plants. If you still want to have some meat or fish, or, you know, then that's your choice. But we can still all improve our diet by increasing the plants that we have in it. So if you were doing like your prawn cocktail, you know, you could make a chickpea mayo with it, and it keeps for ages. You know, just make a big batch of it, and it's so easy.
That just blown my mind. I've never heard of chickpea mayo.
Aquafaba mayo, you may see it as, but it is. I think people are terrified of, if they're not a big fan of cooking, or they just don't have time, or, you know, there's so many restrictions, isn't there, with how people cook or why they don't cook, and, you know, and we all have to make our own choices with that. But I think if we can get people a bit more interested in it, and making it a little bit more exciting with more straightforward ingredients, you know, rather than, I think a lot of people open a cookbook quite often and they're just like, what is that? I've never even heard of it. I never have that in my cupboard. I don't even know where to go and get it, you know, all that sort of thing. And I think people are becoming much more conscious of that, who are doing books and stuff. You know, it's just making it more approachable for people, because we all want to be healthier and get into cooking, I think, a lot more.
But I think you're right, and you know, especially for me, I just want to, if I'm hungry, I just want to like just get on and just eat it, and I panic about, I don't follow recipes very well, But I think basically from what I've got from you today is a little bit of what you like is okay. So I'm going to stick to the digestives in the morning.
No, not in the morning. You're going
In
to
the afternoon, sorry.
change it to a snack.
I'd slip that into, yeah. And basically just be a little bit more adventurous.
I think so. I think it's not being scared of food, but also having some more education on it. I think for people, just reading a little bit more about what it's about. You know, I've got my mum is loves good food and all that, but she'll say, "Oh, I just went and bought some CoQ10 supplement," and I'm like, well, "Why?" "Oh, because it's meant to give you good energy." I'm like, "Well, it's not. There's more a simple way of you getting better energy than taking some CoQ10 supplement, which actually might not be the right thing for you." So, you know,
CoQ10 is a supplement. When it comes to fertility, we hear people talking about that supplement a lot.
Yeah, it's got a place for sure, and I do prescribe it quite a lot, suggest it a lot. But it's, I think it's making sure people aren't spending lots of money. I'm pro supplementation if it's used properly. You know, of course I am, but it can also be so misused, and people it can be unsafe and also expense again for people. You know, they're buying supplements that aren't necessarily the right thing for them. You know. I
need to before we go, I need to mention your brilliant course that you're doing. Now, hang on, where have I put it down here? You've got a course, and people can access your course via IVFbabble. We've got a shop within IVFbabble.
Yes.
And it's a 4-week course.
Yeah.
An hour each time, and you're going to be teaching, well, basically, like you said, educating people about the science behind good foods to eat, to, you know, help you on your fertility journey.
Yeah.
I wrote some of these things down. I've never spoken this word out loud ever. Macronutrients and micronutrients.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, at the risk of sounding really condescending, and it's not meant to be. So, in other words, big nutrients and little nutrients.
Oh, right. Good.
So macro being your protein, fat, and carbohydrate, and micro being the vitamins and minerals. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Foods to avoid, foods to perhaps increase or decrease in your diet.
Yeah. And
then another, I suppose, really key thing is for anyone, you know, anyone going on your course, you know, that comes via us, is trying to conceive. So the mental health aspect as well.
Yeah, very much.
Lifting your mood as well. And
the stress kind of side of it, you know, from a kind of simple level of just basically just stressed before, you know, and then obviously to the depression and anxiety side of it. And, you know, it's a worrying time, and I've had lots of friends go through IVF, and it's something a lot of people want in their life is children, and it's a very emotional time, even if you can conceive naturally. So you know, I think it would be just a great course to talk about also what people struggle with from a dietary point of view. We'll do a little bit of some recipe ideas as well, and so from a science point of view, how it can help them, and it's, you know, based on research and also what they can make from that, from the knowledge that we gain in the course. You know, what they gain in the course, then putting it into practice, which is the really important bit.
I'll put the link to the course underneath this video. But before we end, can I just ask you one final question? What are you going to have for your dinner tonight?
For my dinner tonight, I am having actually sweet potato soup and just a big green salad tonight, because it's so hot. But I like soup, and I like soup when it's hot.
Right, then I'm going to have the same.
With loads of spices, remember. Put your spices in your soup.
Spices, again. I just need you to come to my house and write me a big long list, a big long shopping list. I've got a spice drawer, but I don't think I've ever opened it.
Send your address, I'll come over.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So good, Sarah.
Loved it.
Yeah.